Sure. Hello, Chuck, and a good day to everyone. Thank you for joining us. I bring you a midnight greeting from Texas. It is certainly a pleasure to be here with you today. As we look, I would like to spend a little time to tell you about the Society of Broadcast Engineers, particularly focusing on some of the key resources that we provide to members, particularly in the areas of professional development and our continuing education, listening to Chuck's program about the advancements that has occurred in their transmitter designs. It is needless to say, keeping up with the technology is certainly a challenging thing. From his descriptions of the process of actually designing RF power amplifiers today, the reliability analysis, and then of course the RF supercomputer that is the heart of their transmitter line, pretty much reinforces the importance of education as we go forward. Also, we'll look at some of the resources that the SBE provides to the industry, as well as look at some of our chapters, both, of course, in the United States, as well as some of our international chapters, and then, of course, how to become an SBE member. So who is the Society of Broadcast Engineers? Well, we are a nonprofit professional society that is devoted to the advancement of broadcast engineering and media technology professionals. We're focused upon broadcast engineers, operators, technicians, IT staff, and again, any of the technology professionals. We currently have about 5,000 members, and with that, we provide a diverse set of services to our individual members as well as the industry at large. If we look at just a brief history of the SBE, the roots really began in 1961 when the Institute of Electrical Engineers and the Institute of Radio Engineers began discussions to merge their two organizations together. By 1963, those two organizations did merge and form what we know today as the Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineers, or the IEEE. With this merger, many in the broadcast engineering field began to question, would really the needs of broadcast members be met? That really kind of fell under previously the Institute of Radio Engineers. John Batista, who at the time was the editor of Broadcast Engineering magazine, basically wrote an editorial that seemed to spark an interest in or began a discussion. Is there a new organization needed? Well, in 1964, an organization meeting was held at the National Association of Broadcasters convention in Chicago. That meeting was attended by about 100 broadcast engineers, and the SBE was born from that. The SBE really is built on people. Yes, it is an organization, but it is really founded upon the people that have led the organization through the years. We have chapters that bring the local presence to our members. The first chapter was formed in Binghamton, New York, and the latest chapter, or the newest chapter, was recently formed in the Florida Panhandle area, which also includes portions of southern Georgia and southern Alabama. I'd mentioned education was certainly an important part. It continues to be, but there's also frequency coordination services that began in the mid 70s, as well as a certification program that began. And we'll look at each one of those in a little bit more detail. Where do we start? Well, our first place is the SBE website at www.sbe.org, where you'll find a vast array of information about the SBE, about the services we provide. We'll look at a few particular areas in detail. The SBE is governed by a board of directors led by 4 officers and a 12-person board of directors. These are elected from the membership at large through a nomination process and resultant election. The SBE is also managed by a national staff located in Indianapolis, Indiana, the headquarters of the SBE, and you see those staff members there in their various roles that they undertake to manage that day-to-day activity and organization. We also have several international affiliations with what I would call peer organizations throughout the world. Several of those are shown on the screen. This is just a short list of those, and you'll see a URL toward the bottom of the screen that has the complete list of these affiliate organizations. As I mentioned, professional development or continuing education is a key aspect of SBE. It has always been a key aspect since day one. In fact, some of the motivation to form the SBE was a concern about this new organization formed, we had mentioned, that may not address broadcast engineering. With that, we have several programs to deliver that educational content to our member. The first is SBE University. Webinars are probably our most popular delivery method for that educational content. Kind of a brief, just a little summary of activity this past month in terms of numbers of webinars and so forth. We also have some ENNES Workshops, which are in-person presentations, as well as a couple of other unique opportunities in the leadership development course. And of course, we publish several publications that are suitable for self-study. So we'll look at a little bit detail of these. SBE University is simply an online, on-demand self-study course that you can engage in, work at, and complete really on your own time frame. It's organized in electronic book format with chapters ranging from, say, 8 to up to about 14 for a typical course. They are progress quizzes after each chapter to gauge your proficiency or your competency in the information presented, and of course a final exam in the end and a certificate awarded for successful completion. There are several individual topics within the SBE University family, and you will see a list of those that are available listed. Just to give you an idea of what some of the content looks like, particularly for the technology-based content, a lot of illustrations are used, again, an electronic book format. Again, a lot of graphics, a lot of illustrations that is used. Webinars are by far our most popular education resource that is available. Webinars are offered live, and they're also then, like this webinar, they're recorded and they're available on demand. So you can view them at your leisure. You can view them multiple times whatever is necessary. Today, there's over 90 individual topics within the webinar library, and those attending or completing those webinars earns recertification credit. We'll talk about those credits in just a moment when we talk about certification. That library of webinar content is growing on a monthly basis. So new information, new webinars are added throughout the year. And these webinars are authored by numerous industry subject matter experts. So it is an opportunity to receive some educational resources from some prominent individuals in the industry. This is an example of one of our webinars. In fact, this is, I guess, the next webinar later this week, in fact. And webinars are available several methods. They are available, of course, to non-members. They just come at a little bit higher price. Or one program we have is the Member Plus option that we'll talk about later. But basically, this option gives free access to all of the webinar content that is available. So, and it is quite cost effective. In fact, the differential price is less than the cost of 2 individual webinars at the member price. And of course, again, as I'd mentioned, they're approaching 100 topics. This is the list of the available ones. This is probably a eye chart that is impossible to read on your computer screen. But again, the idea is it illustrates that the diversity of that content that is available. And again, looking at some of the content, again, very, very graphic oriented. They're offered live, of course. Simply a web browser can access them. And then you also can view these at any time on demand. You're provided, of course, a copy of that recorded, as well as a handout set or a handout document of the illustrations used in that webinar. I'd mentioned the ENNES Workshops. These are in-person presentations that are offered annually at the National Association of Broadcasters annual convention. Of course, that conference was canceled this year due to the coronavirus pandemic. So there was a virtual version of that was conducted in cooperation with NAB. But in addition to NAB, we offer regional ENNES workshops. These are often held associated with maybe a state broadcast association, or a local chapter may sponsor those. And this is an example of one that was held last year in Michigan. And again, a full day of in-person presentations were provided. These are made possible by the ENNES Educational Foundation Trust with financial support that allows the registration fee to the attendee to really be as low as possible to encourage that attendance. The SBE Leadership Development course is a unique course. In fact, it is one that is unique in terms of it is a non-technical nature. It is focused upon the broadcast engineer moving from that hands-on engineering role into the management level. So it is focused on leadership skills, communications, motivational techniques, and again, all those skills that you need to be successful in a leadership role. And this again is an annual course that is held each year. This is the 2019 class, and we're looking forward to the 2020 class meeting in August of this year. It is led by a university instructor that is well experienced in organizational management and leadership, and a URL so you can find out more information about that. There often is questions, is it really going to be held this year due to the coronavirus situation? And at this point in time, the attention is for the course to be held. However, July 1 is used as the go or no-go date for sure. And finally, the SBE Bookstore has a number of publications that are available for what I'll describe as self-study. In other words, traditional textbooks to use either as a training material to use as reference. And particularly, I'll call attention to the SBE Broadcast Engineering Handbook, which is, oh gosh, a good 600-page textbook that covers a variety of topics and is one of those reference books that every broadcast engineer needs in their personal library. We had mentioned the certification program. The certification program has several objectives. One is to simply raise the status of broadcast engineers by recognizing their professional competence, and also to encourage continuing education because the technology is continually changing. There are some eligibility requirements for the various certification levels, and certification must be renewed. This is not something that you earn and is good for life. You earn it, but then it must be renewed on a 5-year interval by demonstrating participation in educational activities, and again, such as this webinar today. It is administered by a national certification committee. As I mentioned, there are some eligibility requirements, and with that, there are various levels of certification, beginning with someone at the entry level to the very seasoned 20-year broadcast engineering profession. To help you prepare for certification, there are numerous study references, and also there's a certification preview exam, which is an online exam that can help you prepare with giving you similar questions to what you might find on a certification exam. Also, another fairly lengthy URL, but a certification handbook that goes into great detail on each of these certifications. Kind of a graphic illustration to help illustrate the various levels, beginning with entry level all the way to the very more experienced. And with that, several specialist certifications. Currently today, there are 3, one VSB, AM directional antennas, and digital radio broadcasting. A 4th specialist certification is in the works for ATSC3, and we look to see that later this year. We also have a mentor program, which is a unique program that focuses upon helping someone new to broadcast engineering. This program basically pairs a more seasoned industry professional with someone new to the industry. Often this is someone younger, new to the industry, but it doesn't have to be. It's really the key is someone new to the industry. So those that maybe are making a mid-career change or so forth, certainly is a valid mentee. The mentors and the mentees, they maintain regular contact. This is often done face-to-face if they happen to be paired within the same company, but many mentors and many mentees are not necessary within the same organization. And of course, technology today, such as we're using for this webinar, can be used. But this regular contact is a key aspect. There is a committee that oversights the program, and another unique aspect is educational programs that are offered specifically to the mentees that tend to be of a, the level is geared toward someone new to the industry. A couple of examples of some of those programs that have been recently offered to the mentors. Frequency coordination is one of those services that is provided really to the industry as a whole rather than individual members. Going back to the mid-70s, a nationwide network of volunteer frequency coordinators were established with the real goal to ensure spectrum is utilized efficiently and any interference is minimized and are mitigated with that. They are frequency coordinators located across the United States, as well as several and even in the Pacific region performing these services. Another aspect or service to the industry is our FCC and Liaison government relations work, which really is focused upon preserving spectrum. It seems to always be in a constant challenge to maintain the allocated spectrum. This effort is led by Chris Embley, who is the SBE General Counsel located in the Washington, D.C. area. Kind of an example of some of the work that is done is various filings, particularly with the Federal Communications Commission, having to do again with some of the various spectrum allocation issues that are ongoing. As I'd mentioned, SBE brings a local component to the members through their chapters. There's currently 115 local chapters located in really all areas of the United States. And we also have some international chapters, particularly in Hong Kong, Saipan, Puerto Rico. Hong Kong is unique that there's actually two chapters. One is a student chapter as well. Each of these chapters often maintains their own websites, their own meeting list and so forth of their monthly meetings or whatever frequency they do. And of course, Zoom has become, or some type of video conferencing has become a popular way to bring everyone together in the social distancing era that we seem to be in. If you're in an area where there's just simply not a chapter meeting is not convenient to attend, there's a couple of alternatives. For those that might be a ham radio operator, the SBE high frequency hamnet has been around for, gosh, over 20 years. For others that are maybe in some of the newer digital technologies using IRLP, there's also a net, and you'll see a URL that gives you a lot more information with that. One of the latest offerings, however, is the SBE Web Extra. This is a chapter meeting strictly online, held once a month. And this has become a very, very popular alternative to meetings. Even in areas where there are in-person chapter meetings, it is often not convenient to be able to attend those meetings. And this is particularly true in some of the metropolitan areas where the commute time is just, well, it's just not practical. So again, these are available. And of course, these are available live, usually on the second Tuesday afternoon of each month. They're also streamed on Facebook, through the SBE page there. And all of these web events are archived and available on the SBE YouTube channel. So how do you become an SBE member? Well, gosh, that's really pretty easy. There are several membership levels that are available. There are some qualifications for membership, and as a result, the different membership levels. Earlier, I'd mentioned the SBE Member Plus option. Again, this is, I'll emphasize, an option available to any of the membership levels that simply gives you access to all of the webinar content that is available, and it is free throughout your membership period. A downloadable brochure is available, which again gives plenty of information about membership in the SBE. Can be done online through of course, an application that can be done either mailed in or can be done online, payment with a credit card, and you're off and running. As a member, there's several forms of member communications that are available to you. Certainly all the social media areas are covered. There's an email newsletter that comes out monthly, as well as the SBE blog, which has items that are maybe newsworthy or items of technical interest that are a little bit more urgent, that would come through that monthly email newsletter, or information that will come through our printed magazine as well. As I mentioned, there's also a SBE YouTube channel that is available with a lot of content on it as well. And of course, our Signal magazine is our signature printed publication that is distributed bi-monthly. And in that magazine, you'll find regular articles from some of our key staff members and officers on various areas or topics of interest. You'll find also activities of what individual members and our chapters are up to, and a URL that you see there where you can read several of those publications. As a member, the society has a set of bylaws that governs the operation of the society, but as a member, you also agree to a canon of ethics regarding behavior in the workplace and so forth. Also should mention that there are a sustaining member category, which is a category specifically for corporate level membership. All of the previous membership levels mentioned are focused on the individual, where the sustaining member is focused upon the corporation. And certainly we want to thank ENNES and Wheatstone, our partners in this webinar today, for being sustaining members, as well as a fairly lengthy list of 100 or so other sustaining members that support the efforts of the SBE. With that, that's my story for the overview of the Society of Broadcast Engineers. You see contact information for me personally, as well as the national office in Indianapolis, and certainly we'll welcome your questions either as we have time this evening or at any point in the future. Jeff?
Thank you, President Pecena. Appreciate it. It was a very interesting presentation. Couple questions, though, from the folks out here. People are interested to know about the certification program. How would somebody get certified if they lived in Asia, for instance?
Well, first of all, we really kind of have to quantify that with the certification level. They are, for instance, the broadcast operator certification level is when you purchase that printed publication that was referenced. With it, a certification test is basically included with that. And successful completion gives you that certification. Others, we have exams that are must be proctored. Often that proctoring is done by an SBE chapter. However, in the case of, let's say, somewhere in Asia where there may not be that chapter, then we arrange for, I guess, an appropriate professional individual. Several of my personal certification exams have been proctored by a university instructor, as an example for that. And again, depending upon that level of certification, the exams, the complexity of that exam, of course, varies, with a multiple choice exam to the professional level certifications that include both the multiple choice exam plus a essay type question as well.
And of course, they require a certain amount of experience, and that has to be attested to, and references and those sorts of things.
Yes, and again, that certification handbook, which is about a 60-page document, goes into all of those specifics, both the eligibility requirements as well as information about the certification process, study, recommended study material, and references.
Thank you. I'm often asked in Asia by people who are interested, who are broadcast engineers, professional broadcast engineers, and oftentimes university graduates in electrical engineering, about the opportunity to perhaps emigrate to the United States, and they see this certification exam perhaps as an avenue that would help them get a job in the United States. Have you got any ideas on that?
Well, certainly, I think the SBE certification program is the sole certification program for broadcast engineers in the United States. I guess one area, in a little bit of the history I left out, one of the motivations for the certification program is when the Federal Communications Commission eliminated the requirement for the first class radio telephone license. That was really kind of the standard of competence for a broadcast engineer. And that act by the Federal Communications Commission really motivated, or was the motivation for the SBE certification program, again, to give a potential or an employer a way to evaluate at least a baseline performance or competency level of an engineer. So if you were looking to immigrate to the US and employ in the field of broadcast or media technology, an SBE certification certainly would be, I think, a plus in that evaluation process.
Thank you.
If not a requirement for some positions.
As I recall, most ads these days for broadcast engineers being placed by radio and television stations require SBE certification, and
yes,
so that's really tells you how effective the program is.
That's right. I don't want to say that every job out there or every employer requires that. I think it's to say, though, certainly the majority of them do require that.
Yep. So another thing, Wayne, I think you may have left out is, and it just now came to me, but looking at it from the perspective of a broadcast engineer, looking with the possibility of moving to the United States, the SBE Job Bank, the listings that we have of all the openings for various jobs, and if you're an SBE member, that comes free.
Yes, it is, and that's a good point, Chuck, because there's actually a lot of benefits to SBE membership. I tried to focus on a few of the major ones, but the
Sure.
job bank is another one of those services that is offered to SBE members uh, that really works in two ways. You can certainly post your resume and your job, I guess, ambitions, goals that you're seeking, as well as look at employers that are advertising positions as well. And again, that is just another one of those benefits or programs offered to members. Other benefits of membership include things like, well, discounts on purchases at the SBE Bookstore. There's insurance programs available. Uh, Gosh, that list kind of can go on and on, all the way to what I'll call SBE swag, like the shirt
Sure.
I'm wearing today.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. Um, I think that's all the questions we've got. I want to thank you, Wayne Pecena, the president of the Society of Broadcast Engineers, for staying up real late and helping people in Asia Pacific understand what the Society of Broadcast Engineers is, where it comes from, and what it can do for them.